Fire Radio.
What's happening, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to episode 58 of the Size Up podcast by National Fire Radio, because what you do off the job matters. And I'm super stoked to have my guest on today. We have been going back and forth for a few weeks on the interwebs trying to schedule this. And a little disclaimer I'll add today is we're both coming off a shift. So, I tend not to do these when I come off the shift, and last night was not this horrible shift where it was like all night we were running and every building was on fire. Yesterday was an interesting shift for sure. I had some strange calls, and I even saw he had a strange call, or maybe not strange to him, but it would definitely be strange to me in what it is I do. But I think what we're going to really spend a lot of time talking about today is the kind of what I think are like the chapters of his life. And I think we all have chapters in our life, both on the job and off the job. And then sometimes those chapters intertwine and overlap each other. Our lives aren't like a book, like where, okay, this chapter ends and then the hero goes on his next quest in the new chapter. So I feel like some of his chapters are super interesting. And on top of that, I know he likes movies, because one of the reasons I even reached out to him was because he had this awesome meme of one of my favorite Firehouse movies, The Wolf of Wall Street, and a line that occurs like every shift pretty much at night. So Rob Murphy, man, better known as Murph, what are you doing today, man? How are you?
Good, man. Good. Glad to be on. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. No worries. And that line, the line I'm talking about from The Wolf of Wall Street, I don't know, because it was a couple weeks ago, if you remember. It's when the phone rings from Mad Max, and he's watching the Enforcer, or the Equalizer, the Enforcer.
Absolutely. It happens, like you said, every shift. You could be in the middle of an argument or anything, that phone rings, and it's, hey, Lieutenant Murphy, St. Augustine Fire Department, how can I help you? Yep.
That's it. You have to change. You have to change that voiceover.
Yep.
Sometimes, I'm not even kidding you, I'll answer the phone and be like, Captain Piparo, New Brunswick Fire Department. Like, I'll automatically change my voice into an accent just to assimilate it. Especially if someone else has picked it up and they're like, Cap, the phone's for you, and I know it's something. Let's just say that, right?
Right.
So you're a lieutenant with St. Augustine's Fire?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Been about a little over 2 years now. I've been in the fire service for a little over 10. I've been in St. Augustine City Fire for the last eight and a half. So.
Okay. It's something unique that I learned about in New Jersey. We don't really move our career fire departments. Like, once you get hired, you stay where you are for your career. And then as I started meeting more people from around the country, Florida specifically, California, another big one, where it's like, I worked here and then I went there and then I worked there.
Yeah,
and I feel like Florida's a big state that happens in, right?
Yeah, it was during the hiring process for me. It was it's super prevalent when I came when I retired from, I'm sure what we'll talk about later on. But when I came and did fire school and everything like that, jobs were hard to find here in Florida, and so it was, you got to get hired anywhere, and it would be a lateral step. So once your foot was in the door, so I mean, I was with another department, Palm Coast Fire Department, and I enjoyed my 2 years there. But I mean, ultimately, I had my goal on this department, because it's a small department. The movement and the hiring process and everything was very scarce. So once I got an opportunity to get my foot in the door,
Yeah, I find that a lot about, again, especially folks in Florida, like people that either want to go from a small department to a very large department, or vice versa. Like, I'm in a large department and I want to go to a smaller one, right? Because there's pluses and minuses to both, for sure.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Without a doubt. The first department I worked with, and I don't know how yours operates, I think there was like 66 people with 5 stations, and coming to St. Augustine, it's 33 firefighters, 2 stations. So
oh wow, okay.
So very small department. We are an ISO 1. We are a BLS fire department. We do have paramedics. Right now, we have paramedics on every rig that we run usually, but we are a BLS, and then the county, that St. Johns County that we're in, they do the transport. So we are a fire department.
Good place to be a paramedic. Someone else does the transport.
Yeah. Well, one of the hooks going through fire school and everything is when the old city manager was like, "You are the fire department. This is the oldest city in the U.S. You are here to prevent fires and stop fires. If you can do some BLS, hey, good for you." So it's
It's a
yeah.
really good
So
sell. Like
yeah,
he
yeah,
probably didn't even know, or
yeah,
he
yeah,
knew.
no,
He
yeah,
knew what he needed to do.
yeah, yeah. So that was but I mean, the joke is, I mean, the majority of what we all do is medical, but that
Yeah,
is definitely a big hook to
yeah.
get people in.
Non-transport fire-based EMS is a win.
Yeah,
If you can
yeah.
do that, kids out there listening looking for jobs, and nothing to take away from the paramedics who transport people. Hey, that's a very
We're
important part of
yeah.
the mission. I don't want to do it.
We talk about this all the time, but I'm sure you have seen the meme that we joke about it all the time. It's when a BLS ladder shows up to a medical call, and it's the moniker is, "How would you like your oxygen today?" So, so, so
I have not, but so my see, that's unheard of on my ladder company unit
yeah,
that I ride on because we have 3 engines
yeah,
and occasionally a rescue truck, a dedicated
yeah.
rescue. So they do all the EMS first. So
Gotcha.
then we go, and there's no
Yeah,
one left. Then the ladder guys got to go on the EMS calls, and so
yeah.
I'm like, guys, we're going on EMS call, man. This is it, man. We gotta." And I came from EMS prior to working, so they're like, "Well, we
Yeah,
got you, so we're good." And I'm like, "I know, but
right.
I haven't been on an EMS call in a minute, guys. I got
Right,
it all. Get
right.
my shoes back on. Like
Yeah,
it's we're due for a refresher, and it's like, ladder
yeah,
guys, sit near an engine guy because we may need
right.
some
Yeah,
help on this."
for sure, for sure.
That's odd though, because I've been to St. Augustine's, Florida, when I was
Hmm.
much younger, and my parents
Hmm.
were like, "We're driving from New Jersey to Florida," which I feel as though I never am going to make my children do with me.
Yeah,
Um, but we would
that's
stop in St. Augustine's as like a, I guess I don't want to call it a tourist trap, but it's a cool old city, right?
yeah, yeah. It is. It's speaking of fire, it's obviously we have buildings and structures that are 300, 200 year old structures. We have most of our downtown, the residential is balloon frame. So I mean, it's the fires we go to are big and they move fast. So uh, we have to be an aggressive department. That's kind of hold our hang our hat on this. So, kind of throwback department.
Yeah, and like I said, we sprinkle in the fire service stuff here like glitter on the size up end of it. But
Hmm.
balloon frame in Florida, to me, I
Yeah,
wouldn't really think
yeah,
that. I'm thinking all slab
yeah,
construction,
yeah.
not
Hmm.
really like what we deal with up here in the Northeast of like
Right.
mostly balloon frame.
Yeah. So yeah, just when these houses were created, I mean that was the rage back then. Is balloon frame. Obviously, with everyone now moving to Florida and all this new, especially in St. Augustine. I mean we're blowing up as far as multifamily, mid-level high rises that are starting to pop up around here. So it's definitely changing, but that is kind of our bread and butter.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, most cities or smaller cities, because I'm sort of like you. We're only a 108-person department, so
Hmm.
smaller. But
Yeah.
we are blowing up as well, and we are actually building up. We're high
Hmm.
rises, and like legit, it's like this humongous construction crane is coming down. Yay, we had no incidents. And 2 days later,
Yeah.
they're like, "We're putting 3 up on this site.
Yeah.
Check it out.
It,
We have to bring
yeah.
in 5 cranes to put up 3 cranes."
Right. It worked so well the first time. Let's double or triple it. Yeah. I get
Exactly. Yeah,
it.
we need more tower cranes. And
Yeah.
this last one they set up not too long ago, the crane that they brought in, it was like when you see a fishing vessel and the stabilizers come out down the side,
Okay. Yeah.
and they were
Hmm.
hanging in the air. I'm like this. I don't even want to know, man. I don't want
Yeah.
to know what's happening down there today. I'm glad I'm not working. I'm just watching the
Yeah.
pictures online, right?
Right. Right.
But you're not Florida born and bred though, right? You're from
No.
up my area, well, way past my area, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I was originally born in upstate New York, and spent my first couple years of my life up there, and then my dad got transferred with his company that he was with at the time, and I grew up in most of my childhood in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh, so that
Yep.
explains the college
Yeah.
choice a little bit more
I
aside
mean,
from.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was definitely always in the top five. Moved
Yeah.
around, but yeah, yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. And if you're, I know a lot of people are listening, but if you're watching on YouTube, you can see that Murph fills out the screen a little bit more than I do. He's
Yeah.
quite a bit larger than I am, and
Yeah.
kind of the elephant in the room he alluded to before is that he's an offensive lineman that played for. Do you want to say it? Because it hurts me to say it, where you played college football. Like to actually say those words out
Okay.
loud, it hurts
The
me.
Ohio State. The Ohio State.
So did they teach you guys that? Like it's
Yes,
drilled or?
that's orientation. That's orientation first day. You gotta learn that. So yeah,
So
that's the thing.
and then you went on and we'll get down the road again as chapters go
Hmm.
to play in the NFL and the CFL. But like were
Yeah.
you always a sports kid growing up or,
Yeah. So I was my parents were super active in. I'm the oldest of three brothers, and all of us three brothers played sports. So my childhood was either on a baseball field, on the gridiron, playing football, and playing hockey. Played hockey all the way up to college.
Oh, really? Okay.
So yeah, so love those sports, love being active, and it was. And then my middle brother Ryan, who's actually a Miami-Dade firefighter, he went on. He's 2 years younger than me. He went on and played. He was a scholarship football player at Kentucky. So my parents during my college time and his stuff, my mom would be in Columbus one weekend and my dad would be in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and then they'd switch the next week and they'd be in Ann Arbor with me and uh, Gainesville with my brother. So I mean, they were a big proponent of sports and it raised us, playing athletics and got everyone on the right path and finding success.
Yeah, it's amazing too, and it's really great that you said that too, because you can look at athletics and youth sports in so many different lights, that maybe it's too much, maybe it's bad, maybe there's this,
Hmm.
maybe there's that. And then you have the flip side of it where like literally you can have it make you be the person you are today. And a lot of that is your choice as the athlete and your parents' choice as their involvement in your athletics. At least what I see being a parent here.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. It's and you have as time goes on and you see all these studies, and we can do a deep dive into that of like kids are becoming specialized in one sport. They play baseball year round or football, and and the studies and the the facts coming out now is you want to be well rounded. Yes, there are people that make it if they're focused on one sport, but uh, the commonality of most professional athletes are, hey, they played baseball and now they're professional football players. They played hockey or something. You've got to be well rounded and not just focused on one sport per se.
Yeah, I mean, look at just this past week's Super Bowl game where,
Yeah.
the quarterback that wins the game played baseball most of his life.
Hmm.
And listen, I'm not super sports guy at all. I
That's
watch them
fine.
and, I'm not following it all. But then you have Mr. Irrelevant where even I was
Yeah.
asking my wife, like, did these draft numbers really even matter? Like this
Yeah.
guy. And when you look at quarterback position specifically, really good college quarterbacks generally don't succeed in the NFL
Right.
in
Yeah.
the grand scheme of how you watch this, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's I mean, there are so many little different. I mean, just playing college football and then going to pros, it's just like a step up from obviously high school to college, where I remember being one of the best, football players in high school in the country, and then stepping on Ohio State, going, oh shit, I am definitely not the best. And then working my way up through Ohio State, going, I'm one of the best players in the country, and then getting to the NFL and going, not even close.
You're right back
So,
down.
yeah, you're right back down. So it's just, a pecking order, and you just got to kind of that's one of the things is you just got to keep on working. One of the quotes that I always say, and my guys hear it all the time, is like the harder you work, the luckier you are. I mean, should I have played as long as I did professionally? I'll be the first one to tell you absolutely not. But I outworked everyone, and I can say that wholeheartedly. I outworked everyone. That's why I got where I was.
And it's such a big part in everything we do, right? It's the hard workers that are going to succeed. They may not get the accolades,
Hmm.
they may not get the success, to be honest with you, but they're
Right.
known as that hard worker, right? And it's the same as in
Hmm.
the fire service. Like the best compliment to me that I could still get has nothing to do with being an officer. It has to do with being a good firefighter. Like he's working at the scene like consistently, right?
Absolutely, and you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I've got guys on my shift that are young guys that don't know nothing from anything right now because they're young. But damn it, you will have to pull them back and go, hey, take a breather, because they are just. We're very fortunate to have some young up and coming guys in our department that are just flat out, for lack of a better term, just workhorses. I mean, they just go and go and go.
Yeah, I mean,
You can
and
you
that's
can
it.
you can you can you can smooth over rough areas with hard work.
Yeah,
I mean,
and you
you
can
really can.
teach the fundamentals, and you can coach them, almost as a really good word to use, right? Just like you had to be coached
Absolutely.
in high school, and then at college, totally different game. In the pros, totally different game, and
Hmm.
you're getting coached up to play that game, right?
Right. And to your point, I also am a fire instructor, so I teach out at the fire school here in St. Augustine. You hit the nail on the head. Everyone kind of has that baseline walking in, unless you're like a legacy. You really don't know anything about fire or what you're getting into other than watching shows or movies or whatever. But, the people that stick out, as you can, as a company officer, it's the people that are, might mess up, but they're going to work through their problem and not give up. And those people, and unfortunately, in the world we live in today, those guys stick out way more now because of the generation that we're dealing with now. I sound really old being 47. But that's
Yeah,
where
it's a
we're at.
hundred percent the
That's where
truth,
we're at.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see that hard work too. And to speak to that point, and I was a legacy, although my
Hmm.
dad had retired years before I got hired, but I came from a volunteer department. I had already had my certs, and then went
Hmm.
back through it. But when I was in the academy, I was like, look, I'm the same as you guys right now. If
Yep.
there's something I can help you with, because sure, I've done this a little bit more, I'm gonna help. But we're all here to learn together. And the same thing when I got on shift, where I'm like, I'm here to learn the way we do things in this department. And it was
Hmm.
such a learning thing. Even some other folks were like, whoa, I didn't think you were going to be like this. And I'm like what? Like, I want to learn, and I'm still learning today, right? That's the other
It,
key.
it, yeah. When I went into the academy, and I had always wanted to be a firefighter before I got good at football. And when I retired, had my press conference up in Toronto. At that time, I was playing in the CFL. I, jumped into EMT like a week later down here in Florida, and I never want to stay stagnant. I always got to keep going. But like I remember distinctly, that week leading up to EMT, and that was my springboard to do the fire side of things. But it's like I want, obviously, been very fortunate with my former career. But if I can have people say, "Oh, Rob Murphy is a hell of a firefighter. He's got his shit together," and oh, by the way, he played football. That's the way I want it to be. I don't want to be, oh, here's this football player that wants to, is a
Yep.
firefighter. I'm like, that chapter is closed. And so it brings me pleasure that in the years following up to this, that we'll have new hires, and people will be 3-4 months on and then go, Murph, you played football, so that's a win for me. And
Like, for
that just
real?
goes back to, yeah, so that goes back to just putting your nose to the grindstone, just working out and just trying to be humble, and do your job.
Yeah, and I imagine too, and there's so many, I've worked with a lot of guys whose kids were really good athletes, and a few that played in college, and then even with my own kids, watching some of the kids that they play sports with or do things with, it really gets hard in that college level to keep that mindset, because I'm sure when you're at the Ohio State University and you're playing,
Hmm.
a lot of things are coming at you, fun things, college things, plus the athletic things, and that
Oh,
balance
absolutely.
is crazy.
It's to take a page from. I went to an all boys Catholic high school, very rigid. Cincinnati Moeller, it's known all over the country. Very great academic and sports school. My life was regimented from my ninth grade year, but when you go to college, it is to a certain extent regimented too. But I showed up on a campus of 80,000 people, and holy shit, this is life. Like,
There's girls.
like this
There's
is it. Yeah,
girls.
like, yeah,
I
like this
too,
is this,
single sex ed. I know what high
yeah,
school
yeah,
was like,
yeah,
all
yeah.
boys. So there's girls.
So the first quarter, I'll give it 2 quarters. It definitely took me a little bit of to like, hey, you got to pump the brakes here. You need to, you're here to get an education. You're here to play football. The other stuff can kind of filter in, but hey, yeah.
And that's that hard work theory too, going back to it, that like you have to keep working hard. Just because you made it,
Hmm.
you didn't really make it, right? And
Oh,
that nose to the grindstone attitude is what got you to where you are today, I'm sure.
yeah. I mean, you see so many people. I mean, as many teams I've played for and as many athletes I've been in a locker with, there are guys that were way more talented than me, way more talented. And you watch them on the practice field and you're just like, holy shit, these guys are incredible. I can't do that. But they didn't put the work in the weight room. They didn't put the work in the film. They just thought because they were good athletes, they could get by. And it catches up with you eventually.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that happens in, again, any career, but it's like, God, it's oh God, it's one of those movie lines like wasted talent. Like there's nothing
Hmm.
worse than life
Oh,
than
yeah,
wasted talent, right?
truly,
It's a
truly.
Bronx Tale. I knew I would think of it. It's a
Yep,
Bronx
yep,
Tale.
yep, yep. That's a good one.
Yep. And you're like, why are you wasting this? And it's so hard too, because
Hmm.
now I love the casual conversation of this, because then we just jump around, because you
Yeah,
you have triplets that are in high school right now, which is a
yes.
whole nother world of
That is,
hurt,
yeah, that
is a good
is.
way.
As my dad passed away about 9 years ago, but when I told him that we were having triplets, he said, "You truly do nothing easy in life. You have to do it." And I'm like, "You're right." So, yeah, it was that was a big deal in our life. My wife at the time, we went through the IVF cycle. We actually went through 7 times.
Oh.
And yeah, so to no avail. Nothing was. We would, implant two donor eggs, and nothing, nothing, nothing. And I said, we can't do this anymore. It's heartbreaking for me and you. All right, let's do 3. And of course, here we are. Soon
Let's
to
roll
be
the dice here and
16-year
see
old
what
trip.
happens.
Yeah, soon. Yeah, my last name's Murphy. So that's so that's what happens. So they're in their sophomore years, about to drive this summer. So it's you know it's been crazy, to say the least.
And totally, to say the least. Like you think about it,
Yeah.
and it's I know some folks with twins, and even a few with triplets that we've come across in our lives. And the folks that didn't have one child before, so they had one and then they had
Hmm.
twins or triplets, and we're like, oh my
Yeah.
God. But no one knows what they're doing when they become a parent for the first time. So
No.
if you have 3, it's just
Yeah.
2 more harder, but you're still learning.
Yeah. Now, when we had the kids, now keep in mind this was right in the middle of a season. I was playing in Vancouver at the time, on the other side of North America, from friends, family, everything, in the middle of the season. So that was crazy, crazy to say the least. And there's guys have heard this story all the time. There was times at night at 3, 4 in the morning, I would hold one of them because they were crying. I'd put one of them down, and the other one would start crying, and I would just like start laughing maniacally because I was like just losing my mind. I'm like, this is hysterical. Like, what am I? How do
What
I
else do you
get
have to
this?
do,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Those are some of the best parent stories. Like my kids appreciate that now, and I'm like, I didn't know what to do with you per
yeah,
certain time.
yeah,
And I can imagine your kids now looking at you like, I could just see this. Like I was crying,
yeah,
and then you got me to stop, and then I started crying,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
got me to stop, and I started crying. And they're probably
yeah.
loving life, thinking about torturing you at that point too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. They're teens, so anytime they can twist the screws on old dad, they'll do it.
It does. So I have a 13-year-old and 11-year-old. So when they do twist those screws, though, it is kind of a proud parent moment when they get me,
Oh,
and I'm like, oh, you got me.
no, absolutely, yeah. When they start kind of sticking up for themselves, and you know they're like teenagers, they're smart asses. So when they give it back to me, because I am inherently a smart ass, it's kind of like, hey, don't do that. But in the back of your mind, like, probably,
Props to you. I got it.
yeah,
So so
yeah,
so getting there too, and jumping all around, because
yeah,
I like jumping all around, and having a
yeah.
good
That's fine.
fun talk and learning stuff going back. So you're playing at Ohio State, and
Hmm.
that NFL draft, I guess, were you drafted, or how did that kind of
No, I
go?
went
Because that's
as a
something.
yes. Yeah, so
People
I
don't
went
know
as
about.
a so I went as a free agent. I left school early in my junior year. I was a two-time All-American at Ohio State, and I decided to leave early in the supplemental draft. So it's not the real draft. So I got picked up by my hometown team, Cincinnati, and 25 years later, looking at it, it's like probably not the best thing to go to be a professional athlete in your hometown. And it was not. It was, kind of got caught up in some things and, kind of lived that life for a little bit. And, I ended up, I had a short stint in Cincinnati and then went over got picked up by Kansas City. They sent me over to NFL Europe, which was the thing back then. So I lived in Germany for 7 months. So that was a super life experience, traveling all over Europe. And I was with a coach that um, was a realist and said a lot of these people on your team are never going to ever experience Europe. So he truly made it like, hey, we'll get these practices done, and after a game, you'll have 2 days off so you can explore Europe. So
That's
that
awesome.
was, yep. I mean, we could not. Our record wasn't very good, but we could drink and party with the best of them up there for sure, for sure.
It's crazy now too, because if you fast forward, you were part of the impetus to get these games over in England that they've
Mhm.
had, and now I'm pretty sure the Eagles are opening in Brazil this next year, I think,
Yeah,
or somewhere. There's a
yeah,
South American
yeah.
game, or maybe Mexico.
Yeah, it's funny because when we were over there, there's a team in Scotland, there's a team in London, there was three in Germany. Now the Germans, they love American football, and I'm surprised it hasn't taken off with the NFL right now. But I mean, they're definitely, going back 20 years, they were definitely most caught up on the NFL, knew the rules and everything. But yeah, it was a really good experience. So I went back, came back from that, and then went to training camp with Kansas City. Made the roster there, then ended up hurting my knee. That's a common theme. I've had 13 knee surgeries in my
Oh
career.
my gosh.
So
Okay.
yeah, but yeah, so I hurt my knee. I ended up being put on injured reserve. And at the end of that year, they said, "Hey, you don't really have any film. We're going to release you." And so kind of a fall from grace, going from this two-time All-American at Ohio State, who's now been in the NFL 2 years, doesn't have a lot of game film to try to get picked up. So at that point in time, there was really no interest of me because they're like, well, he's injury prone, he doesn't have any film. Why are we going to give him a contract? So what I had to do was I actually went into the XFL, the first rendition of
The
the
first go around.
XFL.
Okay.
And that was an absolute shit show. So that was, I mean, it was awesome. I mean, now it's like legitimate, but back then it was like barroom fighting, and it was perfect for me. I loved it. I mean, it's just, hey, you versus me. Let's see
Let's
who
go.
wins. Yeah. So the cheerleaders were. I played in Chicago, so I mean, I had a fun time with my buddy. We rented a place in Oprah Winfrey's building on Navy Pier, and so we lived it up like we were big timers. But it was a great experience, and playing that ultimately brought me to the Colts, and I ended up staying there for 3 years and then on to the 49ers. And then my last year was in '05 in Detroit. So
Man, so
that was my NFL. So I bounced around, got to play with, a lot of Hall of Fame coaches, Hall of Fame players. So very, very lucky. Very lucky.
yeah, and hearing that story too, these are the stories that aren't told, right? We
Oh
we
yeah.
hear about
Hmm.
the superstar that signed a 12-year contract and he's staying in this one place, and
Yep.
that's what they want to talk about. And then occasionally you get this story of someone, the Iron Man, or
Yep.
whatever
Hmm.
whatever it is.
That was a
Uh,
journeyman. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
journeyman.
Yep.
That's the word I'm looking
Yep.
for,
Yep.
journeyman.
Hmm.
And to hear that, and like to hear, yeah, you had fun, yeah, you did some stuff that wasn't, you're not necessarily
Yeah.
proud of it in your current
No.
life. But listen,
No.
we all have those
Yep.
in our lives for sure.
Hmm. Yep.
Um, but you were able to still come out on the other side and kind of keep playing, because then you went to Canada after
Yeah.
those 5 years, right?
Yeah. So that was so. my last 2 years in the NFL, with the 49ers, I came into training camp that year in '04 as a backup center. Our center, our all-pro center, went down with a knee injury, and I was slated to start. I was started all preseason. We drafted a guy in the second round, and they moved him in front of me because I was, I spot started through my career, but I was never this, big name guy. And so they wanted to give this guy a chance, which he ended up having a 5-6 year career. But in the NFL and just like any other sports, um, the GM, they're going to give the people they drafted way more chances than the guys that they bring in. So they
Yeah.
look good, which is totally fine. So, long story short, I went to Detroit, finished out my time there. I was playing good football. I was on a real shitty team. So they were moving people in and out. So when my career was over in the NFL, I was like, you know what? I know I can start in the NFL. I know it. I just didn't have the proper opportunity, and I still have love for this game. And so I went and kind of just I had heard about the CFL, and actually contacted one of my roommates that I played in Ohio State with, and he was Canadian, and he had been uh, a big all-star up there, and they put me on a negotiation list, and I ended up signing in Vancouver. I spent 3 years there, won a Grey Cup, which is the equivalent to the Super Bowl on my
Okay.
first year. Um, Ended up winning most outstanding lineman 2 times in that league. Voted the dirtiest player every year in that league. Couple times in the NFL as well. Um, and then signing the largest contract in CFL at the time when I moved to Toronto outside of quarterback. So, and then I finished up in Toronto, and my last year was I blew out my knee again in 11. And, I probably could have come back, but at that point in time, my kids were getting older at the time, and then my ex at that time was not going to let them come up to play, and I was like, listen, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm not going to see my kids. So I decided to go back to my original dream of being a firefighter, and here I am, full 13 years later.
And again, that journeyman story of all that, you're able
Yep.
to work so hard and be that hard worker and come out. Listen, you have at some point everything ends, right? We
Yep.
all we all know this, and the same with
Yep.
our fire service career. At some point, it's going to end, and I'm sure that wasn't easy, especially saying, "Look, I'm playing the best football I've played. I won
Mm-hmm.
the Grey Cup, I think you said it was
Yep.
called. So I'm
Yep.
definitely not a
Mm-hmm.
CFL
Yep.
guy. So
That's fine. I won't
I
hold it
doubt
against
many
you.
people.
Yeah.
I doubt many
Yeah.
people south of Canada are actually
Yeah.
CFL
No
guys,
problem.
but
No
they're
problem.
girls. But
Yep.
like you're able to say that, and you're able to
Mm-hmm.
look at the bigger picture, and those your kids being the big picture at that point,
Oh.
more important than
Yep.
you for sure.
Mm-hmm. And you get that from your parents. I mean, my parents. My mom's still with us. She is a sweet lady, and loves her boys. And my dad was a very, very tough tactician, uh, very tough guy, and kind of made me who I am as far as being tough. I didn't like it growing up, but you get that insight later in life where you're like, oh
Yep.
shit, I am truly how he created this. He had the mainframe wired in, and this is what he wanted me to be, and this is how it came out. So when I saw that, and I know how wonderful my parents were to me. I mean, when I became a father, it's like I, at the very least, have to do what they did for me, and that's essentially what I've done for the last 50.
Yeah, I mean, 13 years ago was the happiest day of my life. Like
Yep.
hands down, when Finn was born, and then again when Declan was born. Like you didn't
Yeah.
think, again, you had them all rapid fire right there. So,
Yeah.
but I didn't think I could get that happy again. And then Declan was born, and I'm like,
Right.
yeah, I feel just as happy now. Like
Yeah.
here he is, like
Mm-hmm.
number two.
Yeah.
And someone just not recently told me, but one of those things because they're like, man. So my kids play sports. They're really
Mm-hmm.
into music and musical theater, and
Awesome.
like I try my damnedest now to be at every single event that they do.
Yeah.
Whether it's swaps or whatever I have to do to get to these events, right?
Yeah. And to your point, I'm the same way. Like I alluded to earlier. I mean, my parents, I can say they never, ever, ever, with three boys, never missed a game in all three of our careers. It's crazy to even think of that. The
Yeah.
thousands of miles for travel hockey. We were, based in Cincinnati, but we go up to Toronto for the weekend and play 5 games and come back. But for me now with my kids, I have 50-50 custody with them. So they're a week with me and then they're a week with their mom. And they're, 25 miles away. So it's like essentially 45 minutes. So we drive them and, it takes a village to raise them, especially with my schedule. So, my fiance Jackie is, when I'm on shift, she's driving them, or my mom is driving them. So it really truly takes a village to raise these kids. But my fiance is the best. She does them. She treats them like her own. Kids love her. Grandma's always there. So it obviously without them, I would this whole blossoming as they are now would not be. It
Yeah.
wouldn't happen.
It's a total true story about it taking a village, because I'm in the
Yeah.
same boat with just two at separate ages, and having family members help, and opportunities that come to us in the fire service and things. When my younger son, I was actually, it just came up because he just turned 11. His first birthday, I was not at home for. I
Hmm.
was traveling for doing a
Hmm.
thing for the not for profit, but I remember my wife and I had a really long conversation, and it was like, well, it's not like he's gonna know, like his first, he's
Yeah.
one that
Hmm.
day
Yeah.
specifically. If you're not here, we're still gonna have a party for him. We're still gonna
Yeah.
celebrate him.
Yeah.
And when they were both younger, I traveled a lot more.
Yeah.
As opposed to now, as they're in
Yeah.
these teenage years, and you don't want to miss these things because of
Right.
what they're doing. I don't travel that much anymore, and I just
Hmm.
got a chance to go take a class out of state, and I'm getting ready to sign up for it, and I was kind of excited, and just got an email that they may have a performance that day, and I'm like, yep,
Yep.
not going to this
Yep.
class out of state,
We're
not missing
we're in
this
the
one,
same.
man.
Yep, we're in the same boat. There has been many fire conferences of like, hey, I'm in, and then I'll get a call, or my daughter will come home and be like, all right, swim practice got moved. Now the meet is this day, and it's like, well, the intention was I was going to go this, but I mean, you talk about sacrifice, right? That's what you do for your kids. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
we joke about it, and everyone kind of gives me a hard time because being here in the South, and we got guys on our in our crews and stuff that are charter fishermen. They fish, they hunt, they do all these things. Their hobbies, their woodwork and all this. Truly, my hobby is my kids. I mean, and I'm fine with it. I mean, I
Yeah.
like, I coach my kids, or when they were little, I coached, and I show up at every performance, every play, that's my job. That's part of my
It's
job,
the best job in the world. It
and
literally, like
and
we
I
say
love it, and I
firefighting,
love it. Oh
right?
yeah,
Firefighting, best job in the world, hands down.
yep,
I'll
hmm,
fight anybody who wants to fight me about that.
yep,
But being a
hmm.
parent is really the best job in the world.
It truly is. It truly is. I mean, you just as if you got kids coming into their teenage years, I mean, you're going to have, like, anyone that's listening that has teenagers, like, there are days that you're going to be pulling out your hair, and then there's other days that you can see them actually developing into good people, and you're like, yes, this is the right
It's
path. We
working.
are
My
doing, yeah,
plan is
it's
working.
working. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
And then
truly.
there's other days where I'm like, I am gonna throttle you
Oh yeah,
right
oh yeah,
now. Like,
absolutely. Yeah, there's been many times where I've had to, walk away from sporting events, or just take a nice little, 30-second meditation, and just come back to being dad. And it's funny because I'm kind of I am an alpha guy. We got a big personality. Conversely, my fiance is a therapist. She's works in recovery, and she's specializes in mental health and trauma and PTSD and all that. And she is a yogi and meditation teacher. So it is truly the yin and yang. So since she has come into my life 6 years ago, it's been people are seeing the nicer, softer Murph now. She has definitely toned
it's
it down for
amazing,
me. Yeah, yeah,
amazing how that stuff
yeah.
works and can help
Yeah,
us, right?
yeah.
And you
I
don't even have to
meditate.
go out and look
Yeah.
for it.
No, no, I meditate twice a day. When I met her, I did not believe in any of that stuff. And I, to this day, 2 meditations a day, whether I'm on shift or off, and it totally refocuses me, centers me, grounds me, and it's I mean, it's still a work in progress. I mean, the running joke when she was getting her master's was like, Murph, you realize why she's with you? She's going to write her thesis on you. So I was like,
Good.
thanks,
She's got her
thanks,
doctoral
boys.
thesis.
Yeah,
Don't even worry about the masters. She's got you, man.
yeah. It's like, thanks, boys, appreciate it.
You literally get all the check boxes, like former football player, firefighter, sleep deprived, possible head injuries, surgeries.
Oh yeah,
Like you name it, you get all the check boxes for sure.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. I've lived a full life, and have a lot of stories.
I'm sure she's listening the entire time. You didn't really know why that first date. You didn't really know why she's like, I'll go with him. This could be good.
Yeah. Yep.
It's so awesome too to see that though, and that part of your life when you get to understand it. Because I say this a lot on the podcast, and James Gearing really talks about it on Behind the Shield. He's from Florida, and he talks about firefighters and sleep deprivation. And it's something that until I met him, I would have been like, literally, F you, I'm not sleep deprived. He's like, but you are, man. That's why you just said that.
Right. It was eye opening when Jackie came into my life, and she's from Canada, moved down here, and I came off shift like I always did for years and years and years. It's like, okay, now I got to do this, and I mean, I'm a zombie. And she was like, take a nap. And I was like, what? You need to lay down for 25 minutes and I was like, what? I'm gonna miss something or whatever. But man, I have turned into a napper. Like I will get a power nap every day. That definitely, with the sleep deprivation, that definitely doesn't solve everything, but it definitely helps.
Well, I think too, and you kind of describe yourself, like a type A personality, like an alpha. And I agree.
Yep.
I'm in the same way. And when we think of that type A, it's like, well, I'm going to get this and I'm tough and I'm able to do all these things. And reality in my mind, I can't shut it off. So learning to shut it off it has nothing to do with being tough or go-getter or hard worker or focused on the job or whatever you want to say. It's the ability to not turn it off that someone has to teach us.
You hit it on the head, and like I said, Jackie has done that for me. That it's like there are definitely, you have to reprogram yourself, because you've been doing this essentially. If you're an alpha personality, you've been an alpha personality since you've been 7 years old. That's who you are. So to reframe your mind and sort of hardwire it back, it takes time, but it can be done. And it's a must in our career for sure.
Yeah, and it's such a big thing now, and it's part of why we have this show to talk about what you do off the job. And I have to update my pre-show questionnaire because I had no idea. Again, you've just told me about Jackie and what it is she does, and if I would have known that, I'd be like, "Yo, we need to get her on this show with you.
Oh,
this could be a great episode, right?"
Yeah, she would be great.
It's a huge part of what we do is this personal life side of our things that we can bring in, and there's a lot of folks that aren't like you and don't want to talk about that. What Jackie did for you, again, and we joke about why she went on the date with you and things, but it's so positive. It's the same as my wife Tracy. She works in medicine, and she saw things going on with me that were different, and we're like, you need to correct this.
Right, and because essentially what you said, you've been doing this for so long, you are not going to look at yourself in the mirror and go, these are things, because these are small striations that change over lengthy lapses of time. So it's not going to be a explosive reaction, and then you can shake your head and go, oh my God. It's these little kind of striations as you go through time. And then if you take a big screenshot of a year and everything from where you were to where you are now, that's the eye opening of, hey, there is something wrong with me. Everyone is living in the moment, so they're not going to necessarily self-reflect and see that in themselves.
Yeah, it's such a hard thing, self-reflection.
Yeah.
And it's so important, again, being a parent, to teach your kids this too, because we kind of don't want them to end up learning it the way you and I clearly have learned it. They're still probably gonna, right? They're gonna fall and they're gonna make the same mistakes we made. Hopefully not as bad as the mistakes that we made, but trying to teach them that. And I don't know, again, how you are, but with my boys, I use prime examples from my life. Sometimes even in the moment, when I'm in that
Oh,
moment, I'm like, hey, boys, look what I just did.
right. Yeah. And I think, you know, especially dealing with younger kids and everything, the easiest way for them to learn and be receptive to information is based on parents' own history and stories. I mean, you can read it like anything. You can read it in a book. You're not gonna. It's not gonna hit you the same way as your dad saying, "Hey, I went through this very same thing. Might be a little different, but here's what happened, and here's how I reacted. Whether it was good or bad, you make the call. But here's my story. I've been there. I've done this."
And I can't imagine being you at your kids' sporting events throughout their years. Uh,
Hmm.
Being a professional athlete, I am not a professional athlete. I played some sports and know some things and am athletic. And then
Hmm.
I look at parents screaming at their kids
Oh yeah.
from their chair because
Oh
they
yeah.
can't get up to walk to scream at their kids about how they're performing on the
Yeah.
field. And I'm
Yeah.
like, come on, man. Like, we,
Yeah. So it's funny because yes, you're exactly right. There will be. I'll turn to Jackie and we'll be watching and just like look at that dad over there. Like that's embarrassing. Like you're 100%. This kid is in the sport to finish the dreams that you never had, or that you never fulfilled. 100%. You see that all the time. But like, what's beneficial to me is my kids played football a couple years and just flag football. I coached them. It was awesome. But they have now branched out into sports that I mean, I was a competitive swimmer in high school as well. So my daughter does swimming. One of my sons does swimming, and then or Maddox, and then Gray is a super runner. So he runs track and cross country, and these are sports like it's funny and humbling to me because hey, they'll come back and like, hey, Dad, I ran this, and what do you think? And it's like, but I have no clue.
yeah.
You look like you were fast to me. I don't know, I don't numbers, I don't know rankings or anything like that. So it's good that that they're not playing football because then 100% that would be something entirely different. But being playing sports that I normally didn't grow up with or are unfamiliar with, it kind of gives me that buffer that it's like, hey, you're doing your own thing. And when we talk about this, when they started playing football and as a father, it's like, well, as me being their dad, it's like I even at an early age with them in their sporting careers could see that they were feeling pressure because of dad, of
Yeah.
who I once was. And even to this day in their sports, I think they put a lot of pressure on themselves that it's like, and so I have to, or Jackie has to reiterate to them, it's like, hey, this is your own course. This is your own path. Be successful, be happy. If it's not making you happy anymore, maybe you need to find something else. But it's just one of those things where in sports, because of what I did, I feel sometimes that just there's pressure inherently on them because of
Yeah.
your dad was this, so it's just
Everybody knows it.
it's just
Everyone has the internet now, right? Everyone
yeah,
can look up,
yeah,
just like I looked up some stuff about you, you know
yeah,
what I mean? And they know those kids, and
yeah,
you're not a small man, so you look at you
right,
and you're
right,
like, wow, you must have played some sports somewhere before you did
yeah,
this fireman thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
And that pressure too, again, they're putting it on themselves, and part of that is good, but the really good part is you catching it and trying to work with them through it.
hmm
Because when you have parents that don't do things like that, then later in life we see problems, that we both
a
know
hundred
about
percent.
at our age.
And I don't know how your boys are, but with triplets, they do everything together. But the three of them are such a wide variety of personalities
Yeah.
in those triplets. Like my one son, Gray, the runner. I mean, he is mini me as far as I put a lot of pressure on myself. He is locked in, focused, where it's almost to the point of like, Gray, are you still having fun? Like he is. I mean, laser focused. Where my other son, Maddox, is the bohemian of the bunch, and he's gonna give it his all. if the results aren't what he likes, he's like, yeah, you know what, I'll get
I'm
another
good.
match tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah, another match tomorrow. So it's just really interesting that I just have a wide variety of personalities that you have to deal with, and we can circle back around to being bringing it back to fire. It's like as an officer or as a company officer anywhere, it's like, I mean, at the end of the day, what are you dealing with? You're managing personalities, right? And
That's
and
it.
and essentially that's what you're doing. You're out at the fire school and I'm teaching and stuff. You're looking at these personalities, and that's someone might be more receptive to yelling. Like for me, the best I played was with coaches that would get in my face and call me every name in the book and everything. Whereas other guys did not like that, and they like to be coddled and patted, and neither is right or wrong. It's just that coaching style and that teaching style, and you have to manage those people.
That's it. I love it. And
Yeah,
you have to manage those people's emergency too that
yeah,
you go to. And
yes,
as I've grown in my career and again in leadership roles, I'm even starting to realize, yeah, we have to put the fire out, right? That's for sure. That's
hmm
the easy part. But I
yeah,
also have to manage all the other things with the people that are there in a very appropriate way that's not just run into the burning building and put it out.
absolutely.
And that is my current learning curve that I'm probably on now, is that management
hmm
level. But it's
Yeah,
all about managing personalities and people,
yeah,
man. For like I made the joke about with the phone rings that we talked about in the beginning.
yeah,
Like when I'm on the car, the phone is for Captain Paparo every single
yeah,
time it rings,
yep,
especially past 7 o'clock at night. No one's calling the firehouse number past 7 o'clock at night unless they want to talk to the person who is in charge that day. Like substitute teacher, here I
absolutely,
am.
absolutely,
Look, I don't
absolutely.
want to leave your daughter out though, because you do your triplets are
Yeah,
two boys
yep,
and your daughter. Does she
yeah.
run the show? Does she run the boys? Like
Yeah,
is
so
she
yeah, 100%, because she is the oldest by 2 minutes, but in our little faction, she operates at like 6 years ahead of the boys. So she is, yeah. So she definitely is. She is like another, or she thinks she's another adult.
gotcha, gotcha.
Jackie and I will have a conversation about the kids, or we're talking about the kids, and will turn, and she's right there, like nodding, and yeah, like she's the third part of this,
Gotcha. She's in
equation.
yeah.
So yeah, but
Your
it's
triplets, you Jackie and her triplets, and then there's the
yeah,
twins. Is the probably
yeah,
the way
yeah,
she looks
yeah.
at it, right? Yeah. I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. So yeah, she's a riot. She's a swimmer. She's doing she's throwing the javelin this year, and she does competitive weightlifting. So she's a wide variety of sports, and she's big into singing and musical arts and theater. So I mean, you name it. One Murphy kid is doing it at school. So
You
we're
pretty much
we're
have it
we're
all
the
covered. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, we are everywhere. So
I mean that's a win when you can cover the field. It's like when people say they have 5 kids and they're like, we have our own basketball team. Like we
yeah,
can just
yeah, yeah,
field our own team right there.
yeah.
You guys have something. And then just to keep you running too. I mean, again, I'm trying to keep up with two, and they do a
Yeah.
lot of the same things right
hmm
now. So it's pretty cool. Like we have
Yeah.
the same lacrosse schedule for
Yeah.
practices, games, and tournaments are
Yeah.
different age
Well,
groups. But
this is the first year, their first season, that all three of them are doing track, and it is like mind blowing. It's like, I get to pick you all up, or Jackie, or my mom gets to pick you all at the same time in the same
see,
place. Mind blown. Yeah.
the things that mind blow you in your
Yeah.
middle ages, right?
Yeah.
Like I get to pick
Yeah.
all my
Yeah.
kids up in the same place at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah. It's the simple things, right? I mean,
That's
that
it,
is a
man.
huge. Like we'll get home at like 8:30 at night and just be like, that was a good afternoon. Everyone's home. Everyone's fed. Everyone's brushed their teeth. Everyone's homework's done. That's a win.
High
It's a
five.
win.
That's a good day.
Yeah.
That's a good day right
Yeah.
there, man.
Yeah.
There is no better way to end this podcast than on that win, I feel like, because that is something that as a parent, you didn't even know you needed until you
Yeah.
actually get it, right? You didn't
Yep.
know how that
Right.
was going to change your life until you're like, this is a win.
Yep.
Murph, man, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So we're going to hit the size up 10 here with you.
Okay.
All right. They're generally rapid fire, but they're not. So
Okay.
whatever works. And someday I'm going
Okay.
to do something with all these that I have, but that day
Okay.
is
All right.
probably never going to happen.
Well,
All right, here we.
speak it into an existence, right? That's how you
Yep,
got to
that's
do
it.
it,
It's
right?
all you got to do,
Mhm.
man. One day
Yep.
I said, "Hey, I'm going to host a podcast," and here I am on episode
Yep.
58. So look at
Okay.
that. Maybe
All
one
right.
day the Size Up 10 will be a cool reel somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, and one of these questions is totally shit for you. Damn it. Anyway, all right. Beach or mountains? Which one are you going to?
I'm going mountains now. Mountains
Yeah,
now.
you really
I'm
don't
getting
have
up.
those in Florida.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, 100% mountains.
A night out or a night in? Or should we just say a night where all the kids are together and in the same
Yeah,
places?
yes. I mean, at 47 right now, that it's like just going from where I was, 15 years ago to now, it's like, hey, if we're in bed at 10:30, it's a win. So,
That's it, man. Listen,
that's
listen.
night in is looks really really good right now.
The next day goes from like I'm able to keep going, and then in your 30s to be like, man, that was a rough 24 hours, and then in your 40s it's like this is a rough 48 hours. I can't do
Oh,
this anymore.
100%. Yeah,
I just can't.
100%.
Right? A good book or a good movie?
Uh, Good movie. Just because I'm so busy, I do like reading, but time is of the
Right there
essence
with
with
you,
me.
man.
So
I'm right there
yeah,
with you.
yeah.
Cross country road trip. Who is your celebrity co-pilot, living or dead?
Oh, Chris Farley.
Oh
No,
yeah,
no doubt.
straight from
That would be
Sandusky. Sandusky,
yes,
you're
yeah,
coming out of
yeah,
Sandusky.
yep. The old O'Callahan Auto Parts, right?
Yep,
Yep.
yep,
He
yep. The car would look just like it did if it was you and him in it for sure.
exactly. I feel like there would probably a 3-day stop at least in Vegas. 100%. That's what
Why
I'm
not?
banking on. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. You make your bed every day?
Uh, I try to, but Jackie is all over that.
She's on it. She's on it.
Yeah, she's on it. I'll get up at 5:30 and do what I have to do and shave and everything. And I'll come out after a shower and it's me. So, but
Well,
yes.
listen, man. I hit the mark clip for that, so I'll send you saying that in public for Jackie,
Okay.
like for
Okay.
her.
All right.
That'll get you some bonus
Yes.
points here, right? In
Appreciate it.
case you missed a
Appreciate it.
Valentine's Day the other day.
Yes.
Give
Appreciate
me
it.
a book that everybody has to read that you've read.
One that I always read, and I read it once a year. I got it about 4 years ago. It's actually right here. The Motivation Manifesto.
Oh, cool.
Um,
I'll have to check it
yeah,
out.
yeah. It's Brandon Burchard, and it just breaks. It's just 9 declarations to claim your personal power back. Yeah, I read it once a year, and kind of it's kind of tattered, kind of worn. I hit that book, and then the one that I read every day, and I've been reading it um, for 6 years since I met Jackie, is this one right here, The Daily Stoic, Ryan Holiday. So it essentially breaks down a meditation on wisdom and the art of living every day. So what it will do is it will give you a quote from the famous Stoics in history, and then it'll be about a paragraph, and then it will make it, and then they'll do 2 or 3 paragraphs into relatable real life stuff. I read this every day in the morning, start my day off. It's a game changer.
Buddy, I have asked about, I don't know, let's just say 45 people these 10 questions, and
Hmm.
this is the first time anyone has ever pulled the book up and shown it to the camera because it was right next to them.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
for all the people that are like, I'm listening to the ex-NFL player firefighter,
yeah,
this is the guy who's
yeah.
got the books right next
Oh
to him.
yeah, I
So
mean,
just
I
love it.
have
I love it.
my little knapsack I bring to work and whatever. Those books are with me all the time.
That's awesome, man.
Yep.
All right, a couple more questions here.
Yep.
Where are we at? Highways or back roads? Which one are you taking?
Oh, back roads. Got to see what's out there.
Love it. A bucket list place to visit.
Uh, good place to visit. I've been a lot of places, a lot of countries, but I would probably like to do Australia. I have not
Nice.
been there yet, but that would be something that would interest me. Jackie has lived there twice, so she keeps on saying
Oh, nice.
that's the place to be. So I'm going to have to be the judge myself.
I'm currently, it's my Google flight tracker. We plan on going there for Christmas this year to visit some
Oh,
friends.
awesome.
So
Awesome. Yeah.
need the flights to come down a little bit more.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, dumbest question I've ever asked anyone on this podcast. I'm
All
like
right.
looking down while I even ask it. Like, football or football?
Oh, come on.
Okay. Last question.
I'm not
last
even.
question.
Yeah, I'm not even answering that.
I mean, I feel bad answering it, but I can't change it for you, right? It wouldn't be fair.
Right.
Last one, man. Best advice you could give to your younger self?
Ooh, that's a good one. Best, something that my dad always said to me, and I listened to it, and I found success with. But if I could make it my mantra earlier on in life, would be just keep grinding. Just keep grinding.
Love it, man. Nice and simple.
Yep.
That may actually be the name of this podcast. I have a bunch of cool names that I've written down for things you said, but I think that just keep grinding may actually be the one to go, because I feel like that's been kind of the overall theme in this whole episode, right? It's just that grind, right? Grinding through everything you're doing, whether it be playing in the NFL, being a fire lieutenant, parent, co-parenting.
And as we all agree, life is not always shiny and happy and everything. It's just keep grinding, and good things will happen eventually. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Life is the grind, man. I'm grinding today, from work to this to another Zoom that my wife already started here that I'm a little late for, to getting my kid into Manhattan this weekend for a Broadway theater intensive, to like back to work next week. Like, here we go, grinding, back to podcasting, right? It's the grind that I love. So maybe that's the type alpha we turn into in our 40s, right? Is the grind.
Yep. For sure. 100%.
Awesome, Murph. Well, listen, man, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day and joining me today, man. It's been great meeting you.
Anytime, man. It was a pleasure. Yep. Anytime you want to link back up, I'm here, man.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Awesome, dude. And thanks to everybody for tuning in and listening. As always, thanks to our sponsors. It's really all you guys listening. And something I wanted to mention in the beginning and totally forgot, but you know, I kind of stumbled upon Murph on the internet. He commented on one of the podcasts, I think, that was there or something, and just started kind of following him and talking. And I'm always looking for guests. So if you want to come on the Size Up by National Fire Radio, talk about what you do off the job, you know, it really does matter. We'd love to have you. So feel free to reach out to us on Instagram or hit us up on National Fire Radio or the Size Up on IG. And we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
National Fire Radio.